Let's quickly head straight now to our discussion where we'll be looking at eradicating female genital mutilation once and for all in Nigeria. The question is it possible? Are people still caught in the web of these awful practices? This is what we are going to be shedding light on as we have with us in the studio Benedicta Obo Esquire. She's a member of the publicity team of FIDA Edo State branch. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's now quickly go straight. The issue of female genital mutilation, does it still exist? As FIDA, have you been having cases where people come to report issues like this to you?
Well, yes, female genital mutilation still exists. It still very, very much exists. And we've had cases where FIDA most times have received more like a report or more like a first-hand information. At times it's before the act has been carried out. At times also it is after it has been carried out, yes. So FIDA has in several ways, several times intervened in issues and instances where parents, relatives have attempted or are attempting to mutilate their girl child. And this, most times it is not only at the time of birth, it happens between the ages of 0 to 15. So I think they have a very long yardstick to carry out what they want to do. But yes, FIDA has in most times intervened.
So what happened to these parents and relatives and guardians?
Okay, by the law, by the VAP law, which is the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law, Section 16, subsection 1 talks about female genital mutilation, talks about violence against women and girls. And most times, the punishment, it's a imprisonment term for maximum 4 years or an optional fine of 200,000 naira. It's not just persons or parents who carry out this act. It also includes the medical practitioners or the health services and all of that. They turn to get punished.
Who were only involved in the process?
Oh yes. If you engage or contact someone to engage in the act, you're also culpable. So there are some parents who, as a result of ignorance, they are falling prey. We've actually prosecuted persons that have been found guilty, the persons that have been found liable. And when we find out that the children are of young ages, we now hand over the children to the ministry who will take over from there, since as at that time, their parents are unable to perform their parental duties.
So children can be seized from parents?
Oh yes, very well. Very, very well. Children are actually seized from parents like that. That's what happens. And then if the act has been carried out, the children are handed over to the social workers who would help to take care of these children, because it can be psychologically and mentally draining. So they help to take care of them, keep an eye on them, follow up, and make sure that whatever they have gone through does not in any way impede on their productivity and their lives. Okay,
now you just pick a child from their parents, take them to someone who they don't really have any relationship with. The parents will have access to the kids again. Will they have access in the long time?
Oh yes, they will. And these persons are not just persons you just pick from the streets. They are professionally trained social workers, most times from the Ministry of Women Affairs, which now in Edo State is the gender-based ministry. They are trained, professionally trained, more like the nannies you have in schools. But these parents, over time, can have access to their children. Probably when they are done serving their term imprisonment, they will be properly accessed. So be sure that they are fit and their psychology, their mentality is has changed. But on the long run, yes, parents do have access to these children.
Okay.
Yes.
So they don't just pay a fine; they also go to prison.
Yes, it is conviction of 4 years imprisonment or an option of fine. You can go to prison or you can pay the fine, but it doesn't make you an ex-convict. So either ways, even if you pay the fine, you're still tagged an ex-convict, which actually is going to be in your profile. So it's actually the same thing as going to prison.
Okay, looking at the whole issue, what have FIDA done so far? Have you been carrying out campaign against this act, or do you think you're lacking support from government, or do you need support from government?
Well, FIDA, over the years, have we've had campaigns to schools, to churches. We've had a little gathering of women. Most times we call them to the office, at FIDA's office, and then we try to talk to them. We go to rural areas to sensitize mothers, parents, relatives on the harms and the possible dangers of having their female children mutilated. Well, we've been having support. Thankfully, the First Lady of Edo State, she has been very supportive. She's a no-nonsense taker when it comes to violence against women. So she has been very supportive. We've had interventions from outside NGOs, external bodies. So far, though it has not been totally eradicated, it is still a process. But looking back at where we are coming from, there is huge progress.
Huge progress. But for some persons, it's their culture, it's their way of life, it's their tradition. And coming to just tell them, stop doing it, it will look like you're infringing on their rights. So don't you think, in a way, they're actually doing the right thing, because this act was handed over to them from their fathers, to their forefathers, to their forefathers, and FIDA just woke up one day and said, don't do it again. They have reasons why they do all these practices. Yeah. So what says you?
Well, I think if to put up a list, cultural belief is number one, because cultures, like you said, has been passed down from forefathers, fathers, and all of that to the present generation. So some people actually consider it a taboo if they go against the cultural practice. But over the years, there has been no benefit. I'm not sure anybody has come up with, someone has come up to say, okay, I was circumcised as a lady when I was quite younger, and this is how it has helped me. So I feel like with the right sensitization, some persons are still living in the old times, though they are living in present, but the mentality has not changed. So cultural leaders, that's where they come in. They need to be sensitized, they need to be orientated, they need to get the proper orientation to know that there are some cultures that should have been long abolished, and there are some cultures that you can, promote and promote. But female genital mutilation, it's something that should be abolished. In some parts of Africa, in some parts of the world, it has been abolished, but you have some very thick rural areas where civilization has not gone to, they don't have access to media and the press. So it's something that we are still fighting. It's something that we believe that someday, even if it doesn't go off 100%, but to a very large extent, we'll be able to influence culture, because civilization should influence culture. Civilization should, in a way, help promote culture. But when cultural leaders, the cultural societies are not being allowed to see the light or the other side of something, that's where we have a problem. So that's why we are trying to sensitize them. That's why we are trying to talk to them, to make them see. Parents, leaders, relatives, because, of course, for a woman to take her child for circumcision, someone else must have been aware. So the orientation is not just for parents. It can be for me as a neighbor, to a couple who just got married, they just had a child. So it is something that it concerns all of us if we must totally eradicate it. Yeah.
Well, some persons are actually of the opinion that the reason why you people are coming up with this whole idea is because they don't really have professionals, again, who help out to do proper work when it comes to the circumcision process. Some have a way of tampering some sensitive organ in the woman's body. But in the past, it has worked out, and they had people who have come out to speak about it too in defense of the process. That I was circumcised and nothing happened. I'm in my husband's house. I think I heard a woman said one time that the reason why they're actually lending their voices to this whole process is because it helps women to stay in their husband's house. It keeps them away from promiscuous life. And you are now coming to tell them, no, it doesn't work like that. Well, in some quarters, some are saying it affects the process of meeting with their man. It affects the pleasurable aspect. So just help us out with this. Are we still campaigning that they should stop? Or we should leave them with their culture and tradition?
No, don't leave them. Keep campaigning, because policies, good policies, are not always easy to implement. Good cultures are not always easy to imbibe in persons. So, this aspect of ladies who were subject to mutilation, female genital mutilation, some say that it keeps them away from promiscuity. It helps them to stay faithful. But most persons have seen or most cases I've read about, or most cases has gotten to our table, you find out that these ladies are actually sexually insatiable. That's the thing. So I'm trying, most times I do not understand why people say it helps them to stay, because the parts, if I may divulge a bit, the part that is being removed, it's actually the sensitive part of the woman.
Okay.
Yes. So it's either it's partially removed, or that's the vulva, the external part. It's either it's partially removed, or it's totally
you said
removed.
that's the sensitive part.
Of course, yes.
So she really needs it.
Of course,
every
she really
woman
needs
needs that part.
Yes.
So for those that theirs have been chopped off, what will happen to them?
They just manage. Most times you hear some of them undergoing therapy, they'll tell you they really do not enjoy sexual
So they've been
pleasure.
pretending all these years?
Oh, yes.
Are you sure?
Yes, from the statistics.
But it doesn't stop a woman from having a child?
No, it doesn't stop a woman from having a child.
So
it
that
doesn't
means
stop
the whole
conception.
process, they probably enjoyed it. Don't you think so?
I would not say
For
that.
you to have one child, second child, the
because
third one,
they need to have a child.
you were collecting something.
Of course,
And
they need to have
it was
children.
sweeting them.
Of course. But at times, when you a closer look at their partners, you find out that actually getting them to get to that climax, sexual pleasure, it's difficult. You have to maybe work 3 times over.
So who need to do the work now?
The man needs to do the work, actually, yes. The man
Need to do double work.
Triple work, actually.
So triple work. Penetration is not enough.
Penetration is enough. So it depends. This is where I think the medical persons will come in.
Yes.
So you can.
We are waiting for
it's
them.
Not
They must come.
They must come.
All right.
So it is. I think it's not just penetration that gives a woman pleasure, sexual pleasure.
Okay.
Yes. So if you understand your spouse, that's where, if, for instance, I was subject to genital mutilation as a child, I would have to tell my husband about it. So we have to work out a way that works for both of us.
So you need to expose some of those sensitive
Yes,
areas.
some of those,
apart from that aspect that was chopped off, there are other sensitive areas in the woman's body.
Yes,
small.
that can help.
The way you just your face, your facial expression.
Well, I wouldn't know, because I don't know how it feels like. But
Okay.
from studies and interviews with persons, those undergoing therapy, and those persons are done with conviction. So that's what the interview.
So you need to talk about it.
Yes, so that we can know how they feel, because it's someone who has experienced something that will be able to give more like a perfect explanation to what it is. So we try to, although it's not easy getting them to speak on something like this, but we are hoping that persons will come out, join the campaign, and help to eradicate female genital mutilation.
So now, talking about your campaign, what are the challenges so far? Has it been successful for you as an organization?
Okay, well, it has not been successful, because at times when we go on campaigns and in rural areas like this, most times the reception, it's not really welcoming, because, like you said, people feel like you people are coming from nowhere. You want to come and change our culture.
Something we've believed in, and it has
something that has helped us from a long time coming.
It has helped our mothers stayed in marriage.
Exactly.
We want to now destroy the life of our younger generation.
Yeah. So that's part of the challenges we face. People feel like we are coming to influence their culture. People feel like we're coming to ridicule their cultures and beliefs. But if we're able to penetrate them, the leaders, the Ejonweres, the senior, yes, the Okageles, exactly. So I think it will go a long way. But the major issues, the major challenge we have is getting people to accept what the harms, to accept the fact that FGM doesn't help in any way. That's the thing, yes.
But at least if you had challenges, you must have recorded successes too.
Oh, yes.
Like
yes,
in Edo State, for instance.
Oh, yes.
What are the results you've gotten so far? The people, how many persons have you been able to sensitize? Those that were caught, were they prosecuted?
Yes, we've had, I may not be able to give an exact figure, but we've had over 100 cases.
Over 100?
Yes, in the last, this is 2024, in the last 3 years. But FIDA doesn't just work in Edo State alone. FIDA is a national, is an international organization. So we have reports that comes from outside the state, outside the country, because what some parents do in the Western world, it is for anyone who engages in female genital mutilation, the person will be when the person is found guilty, the person is charged and convicted, sentenced to life imprisonment. Okay. So they find out that it is more difficult to practice it over there. Okay. So they tend to now come to Nigeria, bring their children to Nigeria, and have the children subjected to that in their villages.
Okay.
So we've been able to get reports from outside the state, outside the country.